February 2016, Dhaka, Bangladesh. The Bangladesh Central Bank appeared calm and ordinary on the outside. Offices were dark, employees had gone home, and security guards moved slowly through silent corridors. Nothing suggested that one of the most significant cyber crimes in history was already underway. Deep inside the bank's computer systems, hackers were active. They were not forcing their way in, and they were not improvising. They had already been inside for months, quietly studying the bank's digital environment. They learned how employees logged in, how approvals worked, how transfers were processed, and how delays occurred. Every detail mattered, and they waited patiently for the right moment. Late that night, the attackers accessed the bank's connection to SWIFT, the global financial messaging system used by banks worldwide to move money across borders. SWIFT is trusted by the international banking system because it does not move money itself. It delivers instructions. If a message appears legitimate, it is accepted. The hackers understood this perfectly. The transfer requests they created were written in flawless banking language, correctly formatted and indistinguishable from real instructions. Nothing triggered suspicion. As a result, millions of dollars began moving out of Bangladesh toward accounts in the Philippines and Sri Lanka, all without alarms, warnings, or human intervention. The attackers initially attempted to steal close to $1 billion. Then something unexpected happened. Inside the Bangladesh Central Bank, a printer malfunctioned. Normally, SWIFT messages were automatically printed for staff review, but that night the printer failed. Because of this small technical issue, bank employees noticed the suspicious transfers hours later than they normally would have. Emergency actions were taken, and most of the transactions were stopped in time. However, not all of them. By the time the system was halted, $81 million had already left the bank. That money was gone. The stolen funds moved quickly. They were transferred to accounts in the Philippines and then funneled into casinos in Manila. Casinos were chosen deliberately because they required less documentation and allowed money to be converted and moved with minimal oversight. The funds were laundered, divided, and dispersed before authorities could respond. When investigators finally traced the path of the money, much of it had already vanished beyond recovery. The global financial world reacted with shock. A central bank, considered one of the most secure financial institutions in any country, had been robbed without a single physical breach. No doors were forced, no weapons were used, and no alarms were triggered. The crime existed only in digital space. International investigators and cybersecurity experts began analyzing the attack in detail. They examined the malware, the infrastructure, the timing, and the methods used. As they compared the findings with previous cyber incidents, familiar patterns began to appear. The same coding styles, the same operational habits, and the same technical signatures had been seen before. Slowly, a name surfaced again and again: the Lazarus Group. This hacking group had already been linked by multiple governments to North Korea. At the time, North Korea was facing severe international sanctions. Its economy was isolated, trade was restricted, and access to global financial systems was limited. Traditional ways of generating money were no longer viable, so the country adapted. Instead of relying on conventional methods, North Korea invested heavily in cyber operations. Children with exceptional mathematical and logical abilities were identified early and removed from ordinary life. They were placed into elite training programs where they studied programming, cryptography, and hacking techniques. These individuals grew up under strict control. Their movements were monitored, their lives were managed, and their families were used as leverage to ensure loyalty. Success brought rewards such as better living conditions and access to the internet, while failure carried serious consequences. These hackers did not work independently. They worked for the state. The Bangladesh bank heist was not an isolated incident. It was part of a broader strategy. After the attack, banks around the world improved their defenses and strengthened monitoring systems. In response, the hackers adapted once again. They shifted their focus toward cryptocurrency. Crypto exchanges were less regulated, often poorly secured, and allowed rapid, irreversible transfers. A single successful breach could move millions of dollars in minutes. Over the following years, North Korean-linked hackers targeted exchanges across multiple countries, draining wallets and stealing private keys. Hundreds of millions of dollars disappeared, and some estimates placed the total losses in the billions. Unlike traditional cyber criminals, these hackers were extremely difficult to stop. They never traveled, never crossed borders, and never operated from countries where they could be arrested. Even when attacks were traced back to them, there were no legal mechanisms to hold them accountable. According to intelligence agencies, the stolen money helped fund weapons programs, missile development, and military research. Cybercrime became a core component of national survival. The events of February 2016 revealed a disturbing reality. A single vulnerability, combined with patience and planning, was enough to move millions of dollars across the world in silence. The attack showed that modern warfare does not always involve explosions or soldiers. Sometimes it happens quietly, through code, in the middle of the night. The Bangladesh bank heist was not the end of this story. It was the beginning of a new era, one where borders no longer protect money. Banks are no longer fortresses, and the most dangerous battles may already be happening silently